I thought it was Brian. And
Okay.
I think Norm has a lot more skill than I do.
Okay, it's another nice thick layer of glue. Gonna mark the valve hole with my hand just so that, again, I'm all ready for that. Make sure that if your tire is directional, that you're putting it on the correct direction. This one doesn't happen to be directional.
So it can go either way.
It can go either way. If you're doing this at home, put a piece of wax paper on the ground. Here in the shop, I'm not too worried about getting a little bit of glue. Set that guy on the ground, grab the valve, and on either side with your hands, place the valve in, and then stretching as much as possible. The grunt was for effect. Now, again, just like anything, the last 6 inches is going to be tough. But because we're dealing with glue that's kind of tacky here, that'll probably stay in place, and you can just pick the tire up a couple of inches at a time and pull it into place. This is where pre-stretching the tire becomes important. Now, the next thing we're going to do is just do a quick visual and straighten the areas that need to be straightened. We're going to clean up any of this glue that moves around later on, but right now we're just going to
Make sure it's evenly on the rim.
make sure it's relatively even. Yeah.
Okay. I'm guessing you don't have a whole lot of time.
You've got more time than you think. You've probably got, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes before the glue gets too tacky.
Okay, so you don't have to go crazy.
Yeah, you don't have to go crazy.
Okay.
You certainly don't want to set this aside and go drink a beer, but yeah, you've got some time. And until right now the tire is sitting on top, but you haven't really forced it down on yet.
Right.
Which is what we will do next. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is put just a little bit of air in, enough so that it's round, and we'll re-inspect.
Is that pump a concoction of your own, or is that
Hey.
actually sold for this purpose?
Craftsman, baby.
Craftsman, all right.
Craftsman. Pumps are for suckers. Then I like to just spin it. That way you can really get a sense if there's high and low spots. There's probably a high spot right at the valve. There usually is. So that's when we just want to make sure that that's centered, and that's going to push down during the next step. But make sure everything's centered first. Yep, that looks pretty good. So now we're going to go ahead and pressurize it. I'm going to put about 110 pounds. Then, starting at the valve, put that down and push down with your body weight. And roll it to seat that tire against the rim. You go all the way around.
Is this the Purdy method or the Belgian method or universal?
Well, on any tire you want to do this.
Okay. Looks like fun.
Well, you can do the next one. Okay. clean up the little bit of excessive glue that got on the rim. On
Okay.
the surface and all. But the last step is to let that glue cure minimum of 24 hours. If you have access to some kind of a heating element, leaning this against your radiator, or in the summertime, leave it sitting in the living room window with the sun beating down, that'll accelerate things. But right now, although the glue is pretty tacky, I can roll this tire off with my hands without trying real hard. And we certainly don't want that to happen. So we want to let that glue cure, like I say, a minimum of 24 hours. Another thing you can do if you're out on the road, or out on a road trip, to leave it in the hot car. Or heck, if you're at home, just go put it in the car.
All right, there you go. And if you're out on the road and you get a flat and you put on your spare, you can ride it, but you want to ride straight, carefully.
Yeah, when you're on the road and you got to yank this tire off, hopefully, probably, more than likely, there's going to be a bunch of glue that's left on the rim. Okay, that's actually a good thing. The tire that you're going to pull out of your Jersey, hopefully you pre-stretched and pre-glued that tire, so you can throw the new tire on.
And when you fold it up pre-glued, it'll come up. It'll unravel nicely.
Oh yeah, no problem. Well, when this glue dries, it's dry. I mean, you can even fold it over on itself. It's not
Gotcha.
a big deal. So if you've got this thing folded up, nothing really
Won't be an issue later.
When you put the new tire on, it'll be strong enough bond that you can get home. As long as you're not doing 40-mile-an-hour descents at a 30-mile-an-hour, 30-degree bank, you got nothing to worry about. As long as you're staying upright, the tire's going to stay on.
Cool beans.
So go ahead and ride it home. Just avoid putting a lot of side stress on that wheel. But once you get home, glue it, or take that spare off because it's your spare, and put it back into the spare circulation, and put your new tire on.
And just a quick word maybe about getting punctures with tubulars. So how do you deal with that?
Tubulars puncture a lot less often anyway. But if you do get a puncture on a tubular, depending on what the issue is, if it's a cut, you're not going to do anything about that. If it's just a simple puncture, put some latex in it. I'm a fan of cafe latex. I think it works pretty well. Stands, the same stuff, the tubeless stuff, works well too.
Does that just pump in through the valve, or?
Yeah, it'll just squirt in through the valve. If it has a removable valve core, like these guys do, then take the core out and it's easier to do that. But you can squirt it in through the valve. But liquid latex, if it's just a small puncture, the latex should seal that. Which, another thing you can do is, if you're a tubular person and you ride with tubulars all the time on training rides, bring a can of like Vittoria Pit Stop or Hutchinson makes the same thing, and that basically is compressed air with liquid latex. Okay. So it's going to do the same thing, but more of an emergency repair out on the road. But if that won't seal it, then you can really assess the tire. Can you pull the tube out of here and patch it and put it back together? Yeah, but
I heard there are places you can go online you could send your tires.
Yeah,
to.
I'm sure.
Is that right?
Back in the day, when we used to ride tubulars all the time, we would just save them up until till me and my buddies had 10 flats, and we'd ship them off to Tennessee to this little old lady, and she would fix them for like $5 each.
Just resew them up?
Yeah.
Wow.
But I don't know that exists anymore, but I'm sure there are places that'll do it. But, if your tire's got some wear on it, or you've just been itching to try a different brand, then pitch it.
Cool.
Recycle it.
Great. All right. So that's pretty much done then.
That's it. The only other thing we're going to do is take some acetone and clean that stuff off there. And it'll come off easily.
Great.
Tubulars.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Mark.
Sure.